I've ridden the R9 about 500 miles, and I've already noticed some things I'd change if I owned this bike long term. I'm gonna give you 5 essential modifications for this bike today. Let's start with the most important, tires. Before you get it flash, throw an exhaust, a tail tidy, please invest in some good tires. It's the #1 upgrade you can make to the bike. In North America, it ships OE with Bridgestone S22s. Off the shelf, this is a great tire, but it's well documented that OE tires are a lower spec than the stuff you actually buy. In Europe, the bike actually comes standards with RS11s, which is a much more appropriate tire for the performance level of this machine and its supposed track-ready nature. You'll notice we have a brand spanking new S22 fitted on this motorcycle, and that's actually because I got a flat on it. So I replaced it with standard equipment, but this is actually off the shelf and not OE. If I was primarily a street rider, I would go with the Pirelli Rosso 4s front and rear. This is the latest Hypersport tire from Pirelli, and it's a huge step up over the Rosso 3. The grip characteristics are awesome. You get performance in wet weather, and you can even chuck a track day or two at them. They come as standard equipment on the Panigale V2S we just had, for example, and you can feel a massive difference over an OE S22. Like other road-oriented tires, there is a harder compound in the middle for long jaunts on the freeway, but then there's a softer compound on the edge for more grip on the side. To be honest, for 95% of riders purchasing a Yamaha R9, this is the tire you need. Unless you're extremely serious about track days and are already an A-level or club racer type rider, but then you already have your own predilections and opinions about rubber. If you're serious about doing track days with your R9, then I would just get a set of Pirelli Supercorsa SPs. This is a DOT rated race tire, and it's very serious, and it can produce insanely fast lap times in the hands of a competent rider. And best of all, you don't need warmers like you would for slicks. I've seen people competitively race in novice class in club racing on a set of Supercorsa SPs. It's so good, I'm actually transitioning my Daytona to a set of Supercorsa SPs because I'm not racing the bike anymore and I'm not going, with warmers. So I'm just going full lazy track dad mode with a kickstand and DOT tires. And I'll still kick a ton of ass with that setup. Now, an important point to note is that you can find links to all of these modifications in the description down below. If you choose to purchase through those links, you do benefit the channel a little bit as well. The next essential mod is unfortunately an ECU Flash. We recommend the guys over at Two Wheel Dyno Works. They're doing great work, and we've had several motorcycles flashed by them with great success. The reason this is basically an essential mod is this graph right here of second gear specifically on this motorcycle. It is so insanely neutered from factory specifically to meet noise regulations in North America. It's the same issue that the ZX4RR suffered from, and it isn't something small that isn't noticeable or only top-end gains. It's second gear, low in the revs, which is basically where you spend a ton of your time on the street. An ECU Flash is going to get you more power, but also better throttle response, torque in second gear, and a bunch of other benefits. It can rev to 11,000 RPM from the Flash as well. Now, we are actually leaving this motorcycle bone stock for the winter, as we have changed how we do things here at Yami-Nu. We want the new winner to have a totally blank canvas that's perfect for them. If they want to flash it using a different company or put different tires on or anything else, they can do so. We also recognize that certain full systems are illegal in some states and are just way more enforced in other states. So we're not going to be doing any of those mods to the bike. Head over to yaminu.co to learn how you can win this motorcycle. I've done like 68 different giveaway bikes at this point, and I have no plans on stopping anytime soon. So an ECU Flash is absolutely essential for this machine. It's kind of crazy how the new bikes being sold nowadays almost have to be flashed in order to feel how they're supposed to be felt. Think about the new Honda Hornet SP, the ZX4RR as we mentioned, and this new Yamaha R9. One curiosity I have that maybe somebody in the comments section knows is why specifically Japanese motorcycles are coming more neutered more often, and the European bikes seemingly get away with it. I don't remember any second gear issues on the Ducati Panigale V2S or any Aprilias I've done or any Triumphs I've done either. So if you have an answer to that question, let me know down below. Next mod up on the list is tank grips. I've talked at length about tank grips before on this channel, but I think this motorcycle in particular could really benefit from them. So tank grips are really simple. You can pick them up from a variety of different brands, and basically all they are is a sticker that you put on the side of the tank here, has a nice adhesive to it. Make sure you clean it with isopropyl alcohol before you add it on there, and you'll get a grippy material here that you can squeeze with your legs. The reason this is important on a sport bike is because you don't have a lot of ability to hang back on the motorcycle, and you have to engage your core to keep your arms light on it. While the R9 is a more comfortable version of a super sport, it's still definitely a super sport. So having the ability to squeeze those tanks and keep it nice and grippy keeps your arms nice and loose and lets you ride for longer. The other added benefit is, of course, when you're aggressively riding in the canyons or on track. When you can hook your leg on the outside and hang off the motorcycle, this helps a ton to ease the fatigue of riding. And on track, it's almost essential to be able to do that as well. You're not gonna be sliding around in the machine. You have a very strong, static perch on the bike, and you can attack corners left and right really nicely. Another added benefit is that a lot of tank grips come with a belt protector right here in the middle. So if you ride around with the belt a lot of the times, you're coming up close to the tank, if you have that little protector down there in the middle, you're not gonna scratch up your nice gas tank on your brand spanking new sport bike. Tank grips are a must-have mod for sport bikes, but in particular this R9. The next mod I would recommend for those of you looking to be a daily warrior on your Yamaha R9 would be a tank bag. I've talked about this at length before on this channel as well, but I've been logging a lot of miles commuting on this machine, and I don't know about you, but in my backpack I have a hydration pack, a portable inflator, and a toolkit so I don't get stuck on the side of the road with a flat, and that stuff actually gets kind of heavy. So I would recommend getting a tank bag to reduce the load on your back. Now this one I lifted from the Touareg, and I usually keep it on the back of the tail over here. They make a lot of cool sporty looking tank bags and tail bags you can use on a motorcycle like the R9. But this is gonna be really good to just reduce that load on your back. You can then have a much more svelte hydration system if you wanna stay hydrated. If you don't believe in drinking water, you can then have no backpack and just keep your stuff on your bike like this. This is something I see really often in Europe and in parts of the West Coast, East Coast as well. People who are daily riding their sport bikes in dense urban traffic and don't want to deal with a backpack. This is really good for long trips. You can quickly zip it open, grab something, put it back in. You can have access to a map on here or your phone. These are just a really nice quality of life modification that I really think would be awesome for the R9. If I was riding this motorcycle around daily, I would absolutely get something like this so I don't have to wear a backpack, because it sucks wearing a backpack on this thing. The next two mods I'm gonna discuss I saved for last because honestly, I don't really think you need to do it, but this is something that's a nice to have. Let's talk exhaust on this machine. Now, one thing you're gonna wanna think about on this bike is that this is a welded one-piece exhaust. You can't do a slip-on modification to this. You can't easily remove the muffler or the catalytic converter. If you're gonna do an exhaust on the R9, you gotta do the whole thing. So that means you're gonna be buying a full system from a reputable brand. Be prepared to shell out something to the tune of $1,200 to $1,700 for this system. Maybe it's because at this stage in my life, I just don't really think that kind of money on making your bike louder is worth it, but I really would save this mod kind of for if you're tracking the bike extensively or if you're going to be racing it. Now this is going to be pretty annoying to install. You're gonna have to remove tons of plastics, get the headers off, do the little springs, do the whole thing, probably budget about 5 to 6 hours in your garage or your shop, get the bike on a lift. I mean, I've done plenty of full system exhaust on motorcycles, and they do just take a bit of time. However, if you do want to hear this CP3 roar, then that is definitely the way to do it. But again, realistically, unless you're tracking or racing the bike, I would just do the Flash and maybe modify the intake system a little bit so I could hear it when I get on it, because having this bike be stealth is kind of a Sigma move if you ask me. Being quiet in the canyons and quiet around town means you're gonna attract less attention. So honestly, unless you really want to hear this bike be super loud, I would recommend just keeping the stock system. You're gonna save money, save time, save any headaches, and it's just gonna be a lot easier. And to be honest, you'll probably increase the resale value too, because people don't really like seeing custom exhaust on bikes, and it's not gonna add any value to your life or the person who buys it anyways either. The last modification I would highly recommend if you're going to be racing this motorcycle is unfortunately getting a new swing arm. So this bike cannot fit slicks with warmers on it. That's apparently what's going around on the grapevine. I've actually got that information from Josh Hayes, who is racing the machine in Moto America. So you need to swap to a Tracer 9 swing arm to fit different sprockets and warmers and slicks, because the slicks are a little bit taller. But honestly, this is another one, much like the exhaust, that unless you're like competitively club racing, you can just run a DOT with no warmers and it's gonna be just fine. Look, I hate to break some hearts, but if you're a B group track day warrior, you really don't need slicks. You don't need to worry so much about your suspension beyond thinking about the spring and the sag in the rear. It's you, not the bike at that point. I've seen plenty of guys go really fast on bone stock motorcycles, so just slap a pair of DOTs on it and call it a day. But if you do need to go racing or you want to go racing, the Tracer 9 swing arm is going to be a very important modification, because you literally can't use slicks on this machine, and you're not going to be competitive at the upper end of novice or expert level racing unless you're running slicks. But I did want to point out, this motorcycle is really well sorted from the factory. I didn't find the need to modify the brake pads or the braking system, which is usually the first thing I start thinking about on a motorcycle. Yamaha equipped this with a nice master cylinder, a nice set of calipers, and a pretty nice set of pads. You can always swap to a race pad, but that's literally a 10-minute job, so I'm not going to talk about swapping pads. In terms of turn indicators, I mean, they're already integrated here in the mirrors. They look really cool. I think the fender isn't that offensive. I know some of you would immediately do a tail tidy, but I'd highly recommend doing some of the things I talked about first before you think about a tail tidy or reflective tape on the wheels, or God forbid underglow lighting or your fuzzy helmet cover. So it's a really well sorted motorcycle. All you need is some different tires, tank grips, some quality of life stuff, and this bike is good to rip. And of course, that ECU Flash as well. As a reminder, all of the modifications listed are in the description down below. If you want to win this motorcycle, it is available on yamynoob.co. Let me know what type of content you want to see on this machine. We're going to have it for a few more weeks here. I definitely want to get it up close and personal with the Yamaha R6 on the street. Maybe we can find an MT-09 SP to compare it to as well. Although I do think you guys know which bike I'm going to prefer if we ride an MT-09 SP and the Yamaha R9 back to back. Thanks so much for checking out today's video. I truly do appreciate it. Let me know if you have an R9, what modifications you have done to the bike down in the comments below. Thanks for watching. Catch you later.